Hello everyone and welcome back to Clover Knows Pets. I'm Clover, and as you can see here, the spiny mouse cage is very overdue for a redo. So that's what we're going to be doing today. I'm going to be redoing the entire cage and then explaining why it's set up the way it is and explaining a lot about the proper care of Egyptian spiny mice. If you don't already know, they are not mice, but more closely related to gerbils, and their care is virtually unknown. The only information on their care in captivity I can find is a very, very outdated study, and that's about it. So I am actually currently working on creating an official care guide for them, which will be the first created in English in, probably, I forget exactly, but it's 70-something years. So, yeah. That's also part of my care series on YouTube, talking all about their care. The reasons I'm making those is actually to link those as references, or more deeper and more in-depth explanations for the care. So yeah. But yeah, gonna redo their cage, and then explain my reasoning for setting it up the way I will in a minute. Let's get started. So I put all of the spinies, yes babies, in a carrier. One of them is in the hide. I took out all of the supplies, and then what I did is I just did spot cleaning. So for the sand area, I used a sift and sifted out any large chunks of hay and paper bedding and such. And of course poop and other debris. And then for this side I went through and found any clumps or brown pieces, because that meant it had been peed on. And yeah, now it's time to add everything back in. For the sand area, this time I'm going to do a completely naturalistic side, and then have this side be more like pet stuff, things like their wheel and cardboard hides and artificial things. And then this will only be like cork and such, plus these two hides because they're sort of stuck there. But yeah, everything on this side will be like cork and natural things, and then this will be the side with like their wheel and such. There's no specific reason for this aside from I want to see what they prefer more. But yeah, we do a split setup like this because although it is important for them to have bedding to burrow in, they do love the sand and do like kicking around, digging in. If you're wondering, by the way, this is a mixture of, what is it called? Natural play sand like you buy from a hardware store, mixed with a tiny bit of Eco-Earth, reptile bedding, and then also Repti sand, which is a very fine quartz sand. So yeah, that's what all of this is. But yeah, that's my plan. Alright, there we go. Let me close the lid real quick. Okay, so this is what we've got so far on the more natural side. We've got corkwood, spruce wood, ash wood, various driftwood. And so the mass of that is mostly just for hiding. Spiny mice in the wild take over abandoned burrows, and so having tube structures like this are really great for them, and they always seem to enjoy that. I've also got a Himalayan salt lick right up here. That is for extra minerals. I do realize that they do use it quite a bit, but at the same time I have not seen any signs of dehydration, which is why I believe that it is something that should be added into every setup, since they seem to be managing their salt intake quite well. Moving over, we have various chews. I've got a birchwood chew and an applewood chew, and then back there I've got an oakwood chew. Now, they don't actually eat the bark on these, or, oh my gosh, no, they don't eat the wood on these, instead they eat the bark. I do have a video on my care series explaining that a little bit, but yeah, in the wild, like I said, they take over abandoned burrows and modify them, and therefore they are eating a lot of root and such, which is why the bark is so good. They love it. As you can see here, they've chewed quite a bit on this other stick. And yeah, it is quite healthy for them. And of course, on top of that, it does help to wear down their teeth. There are no studies explaining whether or not their teeth will overgrow without chews, and no info explaining whether or not their teeth continuously grow or not. But since they are closely related to gerbils and they are like other rodents, we can hypothesize that they do, in which it is important to have chews anyways. I do notice that they tend to shy away from cork bark for some reason, which is why that's so good as hides. But yeah, then of course we've got their 2 coconut hides that they already have up there. I noticed that instead of burying things down underground or hiding them low, they tend to hide their food higher up, which is why having coconut huts like this is really helpful. So yeah, other than that, I've just got some more pieces of wood with bark on them. These are maple, and then that's an ash bark piece. These are great because spinies do tend to love climbing also, and would be considered semi-arboreal. Going along with that, they're quite good at climbing, and tend to be able to climb on very skinny surfaces very well. But yeah, so moving on from that side to the more artificial side, starting off right in the front, we've got foraging toy. Now the way this one works is you just put treats, I'm using pumpkin seeds normally, right in the bottom there, close this up like that, and they have to work with this and try and get their head in there. It also has this way of lifting, like that way they don't get stuck with their heads in there, and it's also big enough for them to get in and out. But yeah, the fact that it's so deep in there means that it does take them quite a while to work it out and get their treat out. Spinies are insanely smart, and although there aren't any IQ studies that have been done, I would say that they're at least 2 times smarter than a rat, and rats are very smart. So yeah, that means it's very important to provide foraging toys. Along with that, I do also scatter feed their dry mix and let them hunt live insects. But yeah, anyways, moving on. Right over here, they've got their water dish. Now, they do tend to poop in their water for some reason. I don't actually know why. But because of that, this does need to be changed at least once a day, but preferably 2 to 3 times a day to make sure that they aren't pooping in it. But yeah, I find water bowls to be a lot more natural than water bottles, as well, they aren't drinking from bottles in the wild. And since they are not a domesticated species and aren't even close to domestication yet, I find it important to make their setup natural whenever possible. But yeah, anyways, on top of that, water bottles are often harder for them to drink from, and that can cause dehydration. Also, if the little metal bearings inside ever were to pop out, it can choke them and kill them. And yes, this has happened before. Not to me, but I have heard this happening from a lot of different studies on other rodents. And I actually know somebody who this happened with. So, yeah. Anyways, moving on, I've just got this nice big piece of maple wood down here. Now, it would have been better if I could have sealed this, but I didn't, so if this does get peed on, it is going to have to be soaked in white vinegar and stuff, and then UV cured, but yeah. Over here, we've got their wheel. This is an 8-inch wheel, and it is solid. Mesh wheels, bar wheels, and saucer wheels are not actually safe. Saucer wheels can hurt your spiny's back and cause spinal issues. And then mesh wheels and bar wheels can cause bumblefoot, cause pressure sores on your spiny's feet, and they can even get their toes or feet stuck in them. So yeah, only solid wheels are acceptable, and you have to make sure that the wheel is at least 8 inches from here to there. I forget the name of this wheel, but it works really well. It's an acrylic wheel. Whatever you use though, solid and high quality is important, because wheels like this, silent spinner, will be broken by how fast they run. And no, I don't mean it'll fall over, I don't mean this will detach, I mean the wheel bearings will get so hot from the spinning that it melts the plastic. Yes, it's happened before. So keep that in mind. Wheels like this do tend to work, but because they run so fast, it is quite loud. So it's best you get a high quality acrylic wheel, like the one I showed before. I have never tested a wooden wheel, but I would assume that they would chew on it, and also probably poop or pee on it, which means that it would not really work. But since I have not yet tested it, I cannot confirm. Anyways, back here I've just got this other artificial hide, and this bendy bridge ladder. As for chew toys, I've got this seagrass stick, and then some other homemade toys. This one is using cocoa fiber and a bamboo tissue paper roll. And I've also got this here. This is Cuttlebone, which is good for calcium. I also have a video on why these are important. This is a fairly new piece, so it's only been chewed on a bit, but yeah. Then finally, I have this little contraption here, aside from the taupe here. right under here there's another hide right there, and the hide right here is a half log hide. Right here is a coconut hide. Basically they go down that way and then in that way, and this is heated with a heat pad. The animal room is kept at 75 degrees or so, but just in case it were to get too cold for them, there is that other heat source. But yeah, other than that, they have another one of these coconut hides, and yeah. I have 4 Egyptian spiny mice, and therefore I need a 40-gallon enclosure minimum. If you have 5, you need a 50. If you have 6, you need a 60, etc. But you do actually want to start with a 40-gallon. So for anywhere from 1 to 4 spinies, they need a 40-gallon. And then if you have any more added on, you need to add a gallon. So if I were to have 3 spinies, they'd also need a 40-gallon. 2 spinies, they'd need a 40-gallon. 1 spiny, they'd need a 40-gallon. 4 spinies, they'd need a 40-gallon. But if you had 5, they'd need a 50-gallon. That's the only way that you can add adequate space. Also keep in mind that they are social, so you do not really want one. But if that ever were to happen, you would still need a 40. Anyways, on top of that, you never want to have more than 4 spinies to 1 wheel. You want no more than 4 per wheel. So if you have 5, you need 2 wheels. If you have 8, you need 2 wheels. If you have 9, you need 3 wheels. I hope that makes sense, but yeah. Last thing to add is now I'm going to add some sprays. Like I explained before, spinies are very smart, and so sprays like this allow them to forage. These are grass sprays. I'm also going to be using some millet sprays. Just be careful when you use these because these are pretty high in fat, so you don't want too many. Some other good options are amaranth sprays, quinoa sprays, oat sprays. Basically anything that is safe for other rodents is going to be a good and safe option for your spinies. But yeah, one last thing to add, or well, 2 more things to add. First is some nesting material. I'm just going to be using some bamboo tissue paper. Just ripped it up into a bunch of strips. And then I'm gonna stuff that in one of the coconuts. I'm also going to be putting some bunny fur in there. Keep in mind though, this is from my domesticated rabbits, not stuff that I found outside. This is just stuff that came off when I was brushing them. So yeah, make sure you're never using cotton, as this can get wrapped around their necks and feet and toes and is not safe. Also, if they were to ingest it, it can cause impaction. Last thing to add before we can put the spinies back is some of their dry mix. I do have a video explaining how I made this, but I have added some ingredients since then, so I'll put an updated list in the description as soon as I finish it. But yeah, they get a tablespoon of this each every 3 nights. So yeah, just scattering it around. There we go, time to add them back. Also keep in mind that this is not their only diet. They also get live insects and fresh food. So yeah. I plan to talk in depth on this in a different video, but for now that's what I've got. They're very inquisitive and also very high energy, so as soon as I open this lid, they're gonna climb all over. Come on, babies. Where are you going? They're all off of the lid, so I'm closing it. And there they are. They're probably going to be checking this tank out for a while now, so I will post a separate video of that on my channel. But for now, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.